When I was born, my mother said the doctor smacked me on my behind, and I thought it was applause, and I've been looking for it ever since. And I think she was right. Thank you for that lovely introduction, and thank you, Keith and Kathy, and all the people that I just met for hosting us today. And as a layperson, I'm really happy to be here to share that my personal experience with lymphedema, but I also want to talk just a little bit about my association with LE&RN. I've been in the business as being an actor for 50 years. I know you wouldn't believe that. I'm so young looking today, but I've never loaned my name to any organization or any cause before. And when I met with Bill Rapisi, actually my doctor, Emily Eicher, talked me into meeting Bill. And when I heard these numbers that lymphedema affects upwards of 10 million Americans, and that's more than muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, ALS, Parkinson's, and AIDS combined, my jaw dropped. And the other fact that Bill gave me at the time was that 50% of doctors, regular MDs in the United States, spend about 30 minutes in aggregate over the 4 years of medical training on any kind of didactics related to the lymphatic system. And as someone who suffers from lymphedema, I was really pissed off. So I decided I have to do something about this. And I wanted to also educate myself to be a valuable spokesperson. So the more I learn, no pun intended, about all of this, the more incredulous I've become. I mean, how can people not know that this disease? I mean, I walk around, and when I say, oh, I can't lift something, I mean, you'll see I've got my compression sleeves on today, and there are things that I have to be careful. I can't lift things over 5 pounds, and one good thing is it hides bingo wings, you know, so that's great, you know, bingo. Anyway, so there's always a silver lining. But how is it possible that so many people who suffer from LE, I mean, and I have what's called secondary lymphedema. It comes from trauma to the lymph nodes. Many of you may know all of this already, but I'm just going to talk about it in case there are those of you out there who don't know about lymphedema. There's also primary lymphedema. I know a young girl, 8 years old, who has lymphedema from the waist down. They're born with it. A woman who had twins, one twin was fine, one twin's leg was swollen. The doctors didn't know what to do about it. They went through all kinds of testing, and finally the doctors came in and said, we've looked this up on the internet and we think this might be something called lymphedema. See ya, because they didn't know what to do for her or her child. So to tell you a little bit about my story, I have lymphedema, and I developed it in my arms 4.5 years ago after a bilateral mastectomy. And I knew what lymphedema was when my mother developed breast cancer back in the 70s, mid-70s, and she had a radical, so of course they scraped her arm down to the bone, which they did in those days, and her arm swelled terribly. So I didn't know what the name of it was, but I knew that she had this grotesque deformity. And I know it sounds kind of minor to say this, but the worst thing for her was that she couldn't get her arm in her sleeve. So she couldn't wear nice clothes anymore. And so for a woman of her age not to feel pretty and womanly, I just defeated her spirit. And now that I'm going through what she's going through, I wish that I could have been there for her and understood what she's going through. But at least maybe now I can help other people. So when I knew what this was about, I was so scared. I talked to my surgeon. I said, please, 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 if the sentinel node is clear, please get out. But unfortunately, he felt it necessary to remove 19 lymph nodes from my left armpit, 3 from my right. So, and I have to say, I mean, here I am. You know, and it's been 4.5 years. that I wouldn't have had. And these, unexpectedly, have been the most fulfilling years of my life, professionally, personally, and I have him to thank for that, and my oncologist to thank for that, and Dr. Eicher, who's here today, to thank for that. And so I'm so grateful to be there, here, there, anywhere. But in the first few days when I was in the hospital, I didn't have that perspective at all, and I was in my hospital bed, and I started to feel these weird little pains in my hands, and it was almost like little bits of, I don't know, lightning going up my arms, and I kept thinking, maybe it's the IV, and I thought, no, this is it. And sure enough it was, and my arms began to swell, and I was just devastated. And with my breast gone, also, just as a side note, because I am an actress, so my great show, Harry's Law, had been canceled because our audience was too old. May I have my glass? Oh, my water's here. I get so pissed off about that still. Anyway, we had 7 to 11 million people. Okay, I'm here to talk about lymphedema. But then I lost my breasts. So I really felt like I was kicked to the curb, that my life was over, that I would never work again. So it was bad. I felt trapped, and I felt very bitter and angry. And then one of my lovely surgeons arranged for me to meet Dr. Emily Eicher. And there are just some doctors that just have this gift. And it starts with that they listen. And what happened to me is that when a doctor really listens and takes that time, and I know it's so hard because you're on a schedule and everything, but she just really listened to me. And of course I just went on and on, my life is over, and I'm not, and after a while she said, in a very charming Eastern European accent, and I love accents, so I'm going to try to do it for you. She said, my dear, you are still young. I have two patients who are over 100. One is 105. She always dresses in Chanel, and everyone goes to her for stock market advice. So have a glass of champagne and begin your new life. And so I did. For the first time, I really looked at someone in a long time, and I saw this beautiful face, full of light and humor and wit. I'd like to acknowledge her today. She's on the front row. Will you please stand up, Emily? I wouldn't be here because she roped me into this whole LE&RN thing, I have to tell you. She had me on the table doing manual lymph drainage after a while, after a few 6 months maybe, and she said, oh, darling, we're doing a 5K at Venous, and I've just never done anything like that. And I just don't know what to do about T-shirts or anything. Could you help me? So I got involved with LE&RN. I met Bill Rapisi, and here I am. But the one point I really wanted to make is that I have LE, thanks to Dr. Eicher. It's not as pronounced as it was before. It's still there. I still have pain. I still feel like I wish I didn't have it, of course, but the people that I have met who have it in their legs and below their waist, I think is really the worst, because of course you have to stand on your legs all day, and the swelling is much worse, and you have to do much more complicated wrapping, and in order to even be able to wear compression sleeves that will fit. And I'm really lucky because I'm wealthy. I don't have to wait, to get into a clinic, although I did in Boca, oddly enough, but I don't have to wait. I have insurance. I have access to compression garments and all the best treatments. So I really feel for people who stay up all night worrying about how bad the pain is going to get before they can get help, or maybe they don't even know what it is that they've got because nobody's told them, and they're perplexed, and the fear is even worse then. At LE&RN, we've asked, and we're really making some progress, I think, thanks to Bill Rapisi. Bill, would you stand up? Bill is our CEO, who's here today. Bill has done an amazing job since I've known him, almost 3 years now, Bill. I mean, we're slow but sure, you know, as my mother would say, 1,000-mile journey begins with one step. And so far, the snails are still looking at us in their rearview mirror, but we are catching up. So it's frustrating because at LE&RN, it's wonderful that we've been able to reach out and that the numbers have disappeared, and now these numbers have become people. And they reach out to us from all over the world, from Malaysia, I just learned, from Russia, from Canada, from Australia, to start new chapters. It's a little frustrating, though, more than frustrating, that we can empathize with them and send them emails and have them come on board and be advocates. But that's really all we can do right now, because there is no cure for this disease. And here's the crux of my frustration. Over 50%, as I said, of North American MDs spend less than 30 minutes in their 4-year education in aggregate on any didactics related to the lymphatic system. I think that bears repeating. Now, GPs are a patient's first line of defense, of course, and if this is my goal. See, I want to reach the GPs that are out there so that people who come to them and have no idea what's going on, the GPs know how to diagnose this, because it's a progressive disease. Many of you may know this, but if they are misdiagnosed, years can go by. Years can go by before they even know what they have or get the proper diagnosis. And I just want to teach doctors somehow how to recognize the symptoms. And I'm frustrated because this day in technology, the dissemination of information shouldn't be difficult. And that's why I'm determined to push for change. And then the other problem that I have is that so many doctors who may know about lymphedema really look at it as being cosmetic. And they don't have any concept that when someone has lymphedema, they're literally taken hostage, and their psychological effects are so damaging. It changes their whole lives, and not just their lives, but as you know, when someone is sick in a family, it affects all the family members. So really the effect it just moves out and affects everything. And I know that you guys, being phlebologists, are very familiar with edema. You treat edema, you treat disability, and you treat pain. And I know you're focused on reducing all of those things for your patients. And it's the same for us in lymphedema. There are these doctors who have a very cavalier attitude, and they cost patients precious time while the disease progresses and worsens. And after reading email after email recounting the same story of medical neglect, it is my not so humble opinion that those doctors bear some responsibility for the harm that they have done. Actually, I thought of them wearing a cement boot for a week and see how they feel. But that's probably a little too close to my character in Misery. So at LE&RN, we're trying to raise awareness. Bill has been pushing very hard for legislation. Chuck Schumer has been an advocate for us. We've got a bill there for $70 million. We're hoping to get that signed into law. And we spoke at the NIH. There are good things happening. Researchers are beginning to discover the pivotal role of the lymphatic system in the pathogenesis and treatment of cancer metastasis, AIDS, autoimmune disease, obesity, cardiovascular disease, organ transplants, as well as those suffering from cancer-related lymphedema. And I don't know, this is my naive wish, is that this is going to open a whole Pandora's box for a host of diseases. Now, getting to the people. I want to introduce just a few of the people that I've come to know through this and what they've gone through. First, there's a young man named Andrew Mata. He was a first-year pharmacy student. He woke up one morning and his ankle was the size of a grapefruit. And he didn't know what was wrong, and his leg began to swell, and lo and behold, he spent 6 months crawling from his bed to his bathroom, researching on the internet, trying to find out what he had and what he could do for it. He ended up opting for experimental surgery in Italy. He went through all of that, and at the very end of that process, they said, well, you know, we're not going to know whether this worked for another 5 years. But he's just this amazing man, and he's opened his own chapter of LE&RN. He became a pharmacist, and there was a woman who would come in the drugstore that everybody hated. And one day he started talking to her, and he learned that she had lymphedema. So he was able to make a connection with her, and her whole attitude changed because somebody saw her and had a connection with her. And that's what's been so exciting for me, being part of this group, is that the connections that we are making, the humanity, the understanding, the compassion that just happens when we realize we're all in the same boat. Andrea's motto is, we are about to change the world. I've got that up there in my head. There's a woman named Maria Apodaca, and she has suffered for years, while doctor after doctor after doctor said, you know, you're too heavy, go eat more salads, you're too fat, blah, blah, blah. So one day she was at work, and a colleague, ran into the back of her leg with a cart and punched a hole in her calf. And she felt all this wetness coming in through her pants, and she went to the ladies' restroom, and instead of blood, she saw water. And she thought, well, this is really weird. And she went to another doctor, and finally this doctor said to her, I don't know what this is, but together we're going to find out. And finally she got the proper diagnosis, and after 2 years with him, or maybe even less, she lost 35 pounds of lymph fluid from her legs. And since then, she's continued to improve, and now she runs 5Ks. Run walks 5Ks. She went with us to the AMA this last spring to talk to James Madara there. And she is beginning her own chapter of LE&RN in Colorado. One of the early people that we got an email from was John Deo, who's a Vietnam vet. So you can imagine how long he's been struggling with this. He went to the VA, and they told him to put warm compresses on his legs, which is one of the worst things you may know to do to it. And of course that didn't work, so they sent him to the CDC, and the CDC sent him to us. I mean, when you look on the CDC website, they have filariasis, which is related to lymphedema, but they don't have lymphedema. So what was so memorable and really scary and awful about his email was at the very end of it, he had in all capital letters, please help me, with exclamation marks. And I think we were able to get him in touch with a clinic down there, and hopefully he's been able to get some relief. On the LE&RN website, there was a video from a guy named Jake who said, there are many men who suffer from lymphedema, but you will never meet them. There's a man named Steve Kellen, though, who had the bravery to introduce himself. He has primary lymphedema from the waist down, including his genitals. He was a busy executive and an avid sportsman, but he had, of course, to curtail these activities. But by maintaining a regimen including skin hygiene, daily nightly compression wear, and 7 hours of daily therapy, he persevered. He sent us a photo of himself about to climb a mountain in the Austrian Alps with other people who suffer from LE. And he said, here is my message, hope and dogged determination to put my best foot forward, in solemn realization that it will be a lengthy and uphill climb. He has begun to climb the mountain with us, and his favorite quote is from Benjamin Franklin, energy and persistence conquer all things. There was a woman, Zawieja Harris, who'd suffered terribly with swollen arms after her double mastectomy. She sent us a photo. You may see it. She couldn't get regular treatments because there was a waiting line. Her husband tried to help her. Her skin was cracking. It was hot and painful. After a while, she finally got compression sleeves that fit. And this is the thing about these people. Zaylee learned that at one of our run walks, we were $11 short of our $30,000 mark. And she sent in the money. And she had $42 in the bank. A young woman in Russia, Tatiana Korolkovich, 28 years old, she said, quote, "I have seen a doctor here who told me the disease is not so bad since one is not dying from this. There was a doctor who called me selfish for thinking about yourself only when there are people living without legs and arms. He told me to leave his office as he doesn't like people who cannot appreciate their happiness." The isolation and loneliness that she has experienced, she hides in her house, beautiful young woman. It's changed her future. She doesn't go out anymore. She's tried treatments, and she says it makes her feel that people are living their lives while she's only trying to catch up to them. It's heartbreaking. Karen Bingham of Nova Scotia recently posted photos of herself and her bare legs on Facebook. And one person wrote that her photos should be taken down because they were nude and undesirable. But she was not to be deterred, so she kept her photos on Facebook, and she received positive support from all over the internet, and now she has been on a Canadian TV show to publicize lymphedema, and she's become an advocate in Halifax to do what she can to spread the word. A young woman named Christiana Meyer's ankle was sore and swollen after her snowboarding one day, and she was told it was just a strain, the pain will go away. Her ankle continued to swell, and not knowing what the flight and heat would do, she went to Jamaica and worked for long hours at a sculpture symposium outdoors. And with no compression, the condition worsened. It took 2 years and countless health professionals to properly diagnose and treat her. Finally, and I know you're not supposed to play favorites, but this person is my favorite. There is a young girl, 8 years old, 9 now, Emma Detlefson. She was born with lymphedema in both legs, and she battles infections that cause her to be hospitalized. She's had 8 hospitalizations in 8 years. Nevertheless, this child has been a powerful advocate for change. 2 years ago, she got the ball rolling for us when she appeared before the New York State Legislature and asked the lawmakers to fund a bill for research that had been languishing there for 12 years. They were so moved by her appearance that one senator was heard to say, "We have to do something to help these children." Because of Emma, Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal and Senator Martin Golden got the bill passed in their respective chambers, and we are in the process of asking Governor Cuomo to pass the bill. This is why I love this kid. So she was one of the youth ambassadors at LE&RN's Walk Run at Brooklyn Bridge last fall, and she was asked to make a speech. And this is what she said. "I don't like having lymphedema. There's really nothing good about lymphedema. I've been getting a lot of infections this year, and they hurt and make me feel really sick. Sometimes even the doctors don't know how to help me. My mom gets sad because she knows I'm sick, but the doctors don't believe her. It makes me sad too. I don't know what insurance is, but I want to tell them that my nighttime wraps would actually help me, even though they tell Mom they're not necessary. Then I could be more of a normal kid during the day and do therapy at night. I think till I'm about 87, I'll walk the Brooklyn Bridge until we find a cure. Or maybe, if I'm lucky, I'll only be 14. If I can do something hard, like walk back and forth across the Brooklyn Bridge, maybe a smart scientist can do something hard for them and find a cure for this in my lifetime." I hope that in bringing these stories to you, and especially Emma's message to you, that it can inspire you to focus on lymphedema as part of your practice, to learn more about it, to tell more people about it. It's really a grassroots effort, and I wanted so much to be here today with all of you because I know you can help us. We really do need your help. Please spread the word. Please get involved. And now I'd like to finally leave you. Where's John, Jeff, with our our video there. These are the faces of some of the individuals that I've just told you about, and more who have joined the rest for education and research. Thank you so much for your attention today.
I got lymphedema. It just came on me. I don't know how I got it.
My name is LaTanya Crawford Raby, and I have lymphedema.
My name is Milo, and my mommy has lymphedema.
Hi, I'm Janelle, and I have lymphedema.
My name is Ben, and I have lymphedema.
My name is Liz, and I have lymphedema.
My name is Marie Apodaca, and I have lymphedema.
My name is Garth, and the love of my life has lymphedema.
I have lymphedema.
Hi, I'm Connor, and I have lymphedema.
If there's anything we've learned about living with lymphedema, what would that be?
To always be brave.